Okay, so hi everyone, it is nice to meet you. Today we are meeting in order to see the show, but also I would like to mention that we are participating in Days of Opole, and because of that we organize a conference that is called Nice to Meet You, and the aim of this conference was to meet partner institutions in the cities that are collaborating with Opole that just finished. And right now we are offline at the gallery, and we can see the exhibition together. My name is Natalia. I am working as a curator for the gallery, and I don't know whether you know what are the duties of curator, but I will shortly introduce this profession. Simply, curator is a person who organizes exhibitions, and one can compare it to director in the theater. So curator is inventing the show, providing ideas, and inviting artists, and gathering everything together, and what's the most important, building the narration of the exhibition. Today we will see a show which is called Salon Wiosenny. It's an old tradition of organizing shows that presents local artists. It started, I guess, at the beginning of 19th century in France. That was called Salon. So we can call it in English spring salon. That means it happens in spring, or sometimes they are taking place in autumn. So maybe we can move a bit farther. This exhibition presents works of 65 artists. It's a pretty big exhibition that is presented in two venues. So one venue is the Contemporary Art Gallery that we are right now, and the second venue is the gallery at the Artistic Association in Opole. Hope we will get there later on. And basic information about this exhibition is that these are artists that are somehow related to Opole or to the region. That means they are working here, they were born here, or in some way they can prove their attachment to the city and region. So to sum up, it is a presentation of local artists. And what's interesting as well, this exhibition is a competition exhibition. That means that all works that were applied to this show are taking part in the competition. There is a jury that chooses the best, the most interesting art pieces among all of them. And I told you we have 65 artists on the show, but at the beginning there were almost 100 applications. So we already limited the list of artists. That proves that local artistic scene is pretty rich, and we have a lot of artists, and I think also a lot of good artists. You will of course have a chance to judge it by yourself. So I will shortly, the scenario is that I will shortly present the main topics and some art pieces, and then we'll give you a time to see it by yourself. Perhaps you will come with some questions, okay? I have to mention that this exhibition is a very difficult exhibition, especially for curators or people who are composing all this variety of attitudes and techniques and topics. And I am not I'm not a curator of this exhibition. I am only a guider today. So this exhibition has been composed by Joanna Filipczyk and Andrzej Schneiweiss. Joanna is a director of the gallery, and Andrzej Schneiweiss is a head of this artistic association in Opole. So I will point the works that were chosen by the jury as the best works, and some of them are already in here. So I call this space a feminine or feministic space, since you can find some works are clearly referring to female problems and dealing with gender issues as well. For example, that one here, made by Martyna Pińkowska, Jestem tu tylko na deser, means I am here only for as a dessert, is a work that directly refers to the way women are perceived in the society, or to some kind of prejudice towards women, like they are perceived more as a commodity than aware, conscious living beings and participants of the real participants of the society. The work, this object is made of sugar. Yeah, it is made of sugar, so that means everything is eatable, but probably not very tasty. And you see the forms has the shape of breasts, hands, just the parts of female bodies with some cream decorations, like it looks like a sweet cake in the pastry. And I think the message is pretty clear in here. But I would like to draw your attention, and this is the work which is considered the best work on the show. It received the Grand Prix this year, so the jury decided that's the most important work at the show. But we have some other works that were pointed also by the jury. Here you can see a painting which is made in quite traditional technique. It is painted on canvas, so let's say use very novel, traditional medium. However, it is hanged just like a piece of fabric, so it's not on the canvas anymore, it's more loose. And what you see in the image are a few women that are just standing. The form is very synthetic, like kind of symbolic, so it's not a realistic image. But what's important, I think the title tells everything, since the title, I'm so sorry. The title is, in Polish goes, Trzeba było nas nie wkurwiać. I'm not sure how to translate it to English. Perhaps something like, you shouldn't make us angry, or piss us off, I don't know. It's made by Krzysztof Tarnowski, an artist from Opole. And one can clearly associate it with what was happening in Poland last year, since we had lots of strikes, women's strikes against the anti-abortion regulations, and a huge part of the society is totally against these decisions. However, they are forced not to proceed with abortion. And that was, I think, very important. They were very important events, especially in pandemia, when there was a complete lockdown, but still women were gathering and striking. And I think that problem is not solved yet, so we will see what will happen. But that also means that female issues are very important in Poland right now, and they are under discussion, and Polish women are getting very strong into feminism, since they experience a lot of discrimination. And this work by Maria Bitka, which is called Bloody Mary, refer to a very famous cocktail. And you can see the artist making a bubbles. It's a video and video performance where artist is making bubbles in the glass. And the glass is filled with a red liquid, which is her how to say, menstrual, can you help me? Her cycle blood, which she collects since some time and works and use it as a material for her works. Why this material? The artist herself told me once that at some point she was a bit angry about this masculine narratives related to or presenting male as a hero who are dying in the battles and losing the blood and suffering for society, while women are losing their bloods every month, and they are also doing it for the common good in order to give life, to give birth. Yet it is perceived mostly as something that should be hidden. Women are oppressed because of that. In some cultures, they are not allowed to do things while having a cycle, and it's something that usually is perceived as something we want to hide. We don't want to discuss it. We find it awkward. We find it disgusting, and we pretend that doesn't happen, while it happens every month to most of females. And that's actually an important issue about how the genders function physically in the society, and how does it affect their being in society. What can they do according to their physical conditions. So let's go upstairs. Ty wiesz, jak powiedzieć szczelność? Się nie przygotowałam trochę. Czarny. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this space is filled with many different art pieces. However, I find one topic that appears in some of them. And since I started to talk about physical experience of reality, which was pointed by Maria Bitka in her performance related to female physical experience of the reality. I would like to go directly to that work by Mateusz Domeracki. This is also a video performance presenting three figures that are putting on kind of hermetic suits. They are putting it on and taking it off, and it's kind of, one could say, chaotic movement or senseless activity. But I think it refers clearly to the situation of pandemia, when we as a species realized that our bodies, we had to redefine the idea of our physicality and bodies, because it was obvious that our bodies are not tight, not hermetic, that liquids coming through one body to another, and this is how we spread coronavirus, for instance. And how we are struggling right now to stay hermetic, to quit, to limitate this exchange of liquidities. We are performing unconsciously. So I think that refers to the idea of or the issue of being related with environment, since it is very much about how we are connected, how we are unlimited, unhermetic, untied in our bodies, that we are, even though we are, we have a precise shape and we know 2 legs, 2 hands and a head is a human, yet we are still we can perceive ourselves also in this more liquid perspective, that we are spreading something, and part of us is going to another person and turning back. So we are very much related to the environment in that way. Also, this work is even stronger exploring the relation with the environment, and I think also gives some kind of reflections about pandemic times and lockdown experience. That's of course my very personal point of view, since you can see the part of the tree, I think these are roots, and the title of this work is Wrastanie or wzrastanie. You can interpret it in both ways. It's a play of word, which means rooting and growing. And one can see the roots, which is very, very obvious, but also a graphic that presents a human figure with these roots on. And my personal experience about pandemia was that once they locked down everything, I started to think, or I was pretty sad that I cannot travel, that I am locked down in a house, that I have to stay in one place, because I thought life is about moving. And then I realized there are other creatures in the world that spend their entire life in one place, like trees, for instance, and their life is even longer than ours. We can, like, 100 or 200 or 400 years, or even for some species 1,000 or more. And all this time just in one place. Everything is changing around, and they are in there. So that's completely different perspective and experience than the one we have as a species. But that's also important, I think, in all this post-human perspective that encourage people to see things from other sides and to not to focus only on this one experience we have, but telling us that other creatures, other beings can perceive the world or experience the world and reality in entirely different way. And here you can see two artists with their series of paintings. So first of all, that one by Mateusz Mentel, which was awarded awarded during this competition. Mateusz received the award from the gallery. That means he will have a show next year. Probably you will be able to see more of his works, and you can see quite abstractive figures presented in the images, but in the title the author refers to Arp. Hans Arp was an artist working at the beginning of 20th century, was a part of the first avant-garde, and he's known mostly for creating abstractive objects and forms that are very organic in the shape. So, because usually abstractive art, we associate abstractive art with geometry or geometrical figures, while there is a part that refers to nature. Even though it's not figurative, we can still find this association to natural world. Perhaps you can see some jellyfish in it, or cactus, or something that you have experienced in the nature. And that's why I think this work is also very much about our relation with environment, and especially with the nature. And also that series, which is made by Barbara Gębczak, that shows landscapes with some pavilions or kiosks somewhere in the landscape, but that's very typical view in Poland, especially in rural areas or some places like that are for tourists, like lakes or beaches, where you can find a lot of nature, but also this kind of buildings. And that one was also awarded by the gallery, since it builds very interesting ambience. And if you know Poland, I assume you live here since some time, so you can, I hope you can associate it with this rural view. Even around Opole, if you go to Turawa, probably you will see similar images. So, yeah, and that's a collection of ready-made objects. Also refers to pandemia and lockdown, made by Romuald Jeziorowski. And he's writing even in the title a lot about pandemia and depression and so on. I don't know whether I have to explain it in detail. I think it's pretty clear. Maybe I will only add that this artistic practice or strategy refers to Marcel Duchamp ready-made strategy. That means that the artist is not creating from the beginning, but working on objects that are surrounding him or her in the very reality. And you can see things or objects that are collected in the boxes and stick to the surface by some glue or melted plastic, and they are very different from shells to pencil stones or some samples or colors. So everything that artist is using in his or her atelier. Perhaps you have some question about, would you like to ask about some specific work on this show? Or maybe you want to share your reflection or thoughts, considerations? Not now. So let's move to another work which I think many works presented in this space are speaking about the condition of humanity in general. So that work by Jerzy Beski, I have to check the word. Shroud. That's an image created by the artist's body. So the artist covered his body with a paint and then made some, or used the technique we could call monography. So simply he printed his body on this sheet and created what was the name? Shroud? Shroud, yes. Of course, we may associate it with Torino shroud, where one can find the shroud with imprints of a body that is considered to be a body of Jesus Christ. So from one hand we have a kind of religious association, but maybe it's important that the Jerzy Beski is about over 80 years old artist, and for most of his life was doing an abstractive painting. And right now he's reaching the top of his creative output and started to use, instead of using brushes, he started to use his own body as a tool for creating images. And of course, we may come with a lot of association related to how we were locked down or got ill because of COVID, and I think I don't have to explain that much this situation, because from my point of view, this is the dominant problem right now for everyone. And here there is a hologram. So if you move around, the light will, you have to discover this work. Aha. Dobrze. Proszę bardzo. Zapraszam, żebyście jeszcze zeszli na dół, bo tam są bardzo takie efektowne prace. Może przejdziemy tam od razu szybciutko. Tam jest też troszkę chłodniej, bo tu jest dosyć ekstremalnie. Ja nie wiedziałam, że w ogóle coś takiego się wydarzy, także jestem trochę zaskoczona. Jest troszkę przyjemniej. So that's the space for pieces that are dealing with light. And in front of you there are two paintings by Jeremy Peach, which are using the light. I mean, in general, painting is very much about light, because since it uses color, and color is a proof of light presence. However, he adds the light sources to the images, so one can have an impression they are moving and constantly changing, because he uses special colors that are even more vivid once the ultraviolet light is located in front of them. So that gives kind of psychedelic ambience as well, and I think this, they look pretty much like a eye routine, so that correspond nicely with the other work by Andrzej Lach, which is called I See You, and consists of a form that represents an eye, and it's a mixture of wood and glass, so I think very uncommon mixture. And on the right side you can see works by Michał Krawiec. These are light boxes, so basically they consist of printed graphics that use light as well, and make, because of this light use, the images looks three-dimensional, and some of them are even more like a small installation, and one can use it. I don't know actually how to do that. Push the button. Unfortunately, it's not working. Oh. Yeah, and you can see it from here. So they have this, they are also interactive, one can touch them and play with them for a while. And there are many images incorporated in this printing graphics, as well as typography. I think that's specific for Michał Krawiec's works, where he combines like a lot of human activities and showing the chaos we create in the world, which is sometimes creative and sometimes destructive. Proszę?
Michał Krawiec to zbierałeś?
Tak, no.
A właśnie, masz takie rozeznanie, ile osób jest, powiedzmy, takich no, w ramach wystawy profesjonalnymi artystami, a czy są też takie osoby, które wiesz, coś tam sobie uprawiają na boku i akurat im się udało? To jest pierwszy rok, kiedy ktoś z zewnątrz, tak?
Usually the exhibition was dedicated to artists associated within this artistic association, and these are professional artists. That means they have to be graduated under some artistic university or academy. This year, for the first time, the show was available for everyone who wanted to.
Everyone could present.
Yeah. I mean, they could apply. They could apply, and then the jury decided whether the work should be presented or not. And I think this discussion about being professional and not unprofessional artists is not valid anymore, since we speak a lot about conservatism in academic circles, so it's not a proof or prestigious thing anymore, and your skills are proved by what you are doing and your yeah, so you are considered as an artist not because you finished an artistic school, but because you are doing something that is important and makes some impact. And it doesn't matter whether you were studying it yourself or you found any other way to do it.
But you do not know the statistics specifically done by artists.
Yeah, of course, most of by artistic school, because it's not such a funny thing to be an artist.
Of course, I knew that it was the first time when it was available for everyone. That's why I was wondering
Yeah, you could.
when were the